Okay, well, hello everyone, and welcome to what hopefully will be the first of very many talks and presentations. My name is Dr. David Ajibade with the Brain and Body Foundation. Now, I'm still trying to get a hang of all this thing, so you might see my eye wandering from place to place. We're just trying to make sure that everybody is well situated and everybody can get in. I think I still have a few people who are trying to get in who have not been able to get in yet. So if I do get distracted a little bit, just forgive me. So let's get. Please make sure you are all muted. I think everybody's muted. Not everybody's muted. Please make sure everybody's all muted, please, and then we will get into it. So my name is Dr. David Ajibade. I'm the director of the Brain and Body Foundation, and I want to say a big thank you to Jan Cass for, as I said earlier, just making this happen. It was her advice and suggestion that we start a series of presentations, primarily with the humor community in mind, but really in general for seniors, people who are looking to improve their health and regain their health, and basically people everywhere who just want to understand how their bodies work and how their brains work. I'm going to be showing you a few slides in a few minutes. At any point in time, you can ask a question. I can just type in your question, and then we'll get to it. So I'm just going to say a few things about myself. Tonight's presentation is about keeping your marbles. Like I said, it's the beginning of several different presentations. We'll be talking about things they can do to help. Tonight's presentation is helping to regain or improve your memory. We'll be talking about how to improve your cardiovascular system, your blood vessels, your heart and your blood vessels. We'll be talking about your kidneys. We'll be talking about your lungs. We're talking about infections and how to stay on top of infection, how to avoid them. SARS-CoV-2 has taught us a lot about the immune system and how important the immune system is. So we'll be talking about that in the coming weeks. But today is about the brain. I think it's apt that we're starting with it, and I'll just tell you a little bit about why it's so important to me. First and foremost, this is not meant to replace your doctor's expert care and attention. Again, we are transferring knowledge, we're transferring tips, helping you build your understanding and providing you with tools so that you in turn can do the right things, take the necessary steps to improve your health or to maintain your health. It should not be done without your doctors, without consultation, especially if we mention specific things. It's best you consult with your doctor because he or she knows your medical history and she knows what you need to use and what you need to avoid. So everybody's unique, and so we're not supposing to say this applies to everyone across the board without discrimination. We'll be talking about keeping your marbles. We'll be talking about how the brain works, basically some basic things you need to understand about the brain. We'll also be talking about what happens as you grow older and how that affects your memory. And then we'll be talking about how to regain your brain health. And I think I'm just going to go ahead and I'll just go ahead and share my screen. Please remember, you can type in a question at any point in time. So feel free to do that. Let's see, I'll share my screen. Okay, share, all right. Let me know, everybody can see my screen, right? I hope, okay. If you can't see the screen, just type you can't see it, so I'll know what to do. Can everybody see my screen? Yes, no, maybe? Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead. So my story, I've said I was going to tell you my story earlier. I still haven't said it. So I'm a medical doctor from Nigeria, born and raised. I came into the US about 20 years ago. I stayed for about 10 years, went back home, stayed for another 10 years, and I'm back now. And the reason I came back is because we are about to start research in a disease called sickle cell disease. Not common among whites. It's actually not known among white people, but it's very common among Black people. We found out that we could solve, or at least significantly improve the health of these kids. But how did we get there? I've always had an interest in two main things: how the brain works and how to improve and optimize brain function, whether it's how to think better, how remember better, how to solve problems better. So it's always been about the brain. At one time, I wanted to be a neurosurgeon. Ben Carson was one of my idols and my heroes. Number two was about how the body heals itself, how the body works, how to optimize healing and repair of the body. I've always believed, and maybe romantically so, that our potential as human beings is way, way, way more than what we have been told as doctors, or whether what medical science has told us. I always have this, and some people say I like I said, I use the word romantically, but some people say that I believe I overestimate the ability of the human body to repair itself. But in many cases, we haven't been wrong. We found out that the more you push your body, the more you provide your body with the tools and the resources that it needs, the more it's going to deliver. The problem many times is that people just, first of all, people and doctors don't realize that the body can do a lot more than what we've been made to believe it can. And secondly, because of that belief, they don't push it as hard, and therefore we don't see just how far the body can go. And in my experience, working with children, and just to quickly tell you, when I went back to Nigeria after 10 years of being here and working with several doctors here and researchers, I went back to Nigeria and we opened a foundation called the Brain and Body Foundation. It's right there at the bottom of your screen, bottom right. We opened a foundation called the Brain and Body Foundation. And the idea was to help kids, medically fragile kids, especially kids who are having this incurable medical conditions, especially brain conditions like cerebral palsy, seizure disorders, Down syndrome, and of course, sickle cell disease. And we found out, just what I've been trying to say, that when we found out we could, if we gave them the right building blocks, we give them the right resources and nutrition, their bodies could respond so much better. And many times kids who are completely given up to die, we found out we could turn these things around. And so we started doing that, and the results were fantastic. We went to the Nigerian government, we showed them the results. We took parents with us to the Nigerian government Ministry of Health, and they were so impressed that they gave us a wide range of conditions that we were allowed to treat and address using our approach, which I term the building strength approach. And we're also on national television. We share some of our concepts on Nigerian TV, which has gone through, which is the largest, our national television station is the largest TV station in Africa. So we are broadcast all over Africa, of course, because of the internet all over the world. And recently we won the award for the best health TV show in Africa. And so quite proud of that. We're humbled and to be able to have that distinction. But the most important thing that I feel we need to do is to save lives. And we have a lot of kids who are dying with sickle cell disease in Nigeria alone. Over close to 100,000 are dead and die each year from sickle cell disease before their 5th birthday. And I feel that's unacceptable. And we have found out that we can do a lot about it. But before we can do a lot about it, we need to have the buy-in of the doctors. So we are showing the principles that we are applying to sickle cell disease. We are doing research in government hospitals to apply those same principles. Hopefully we'll get the data to prove that doctors need to use the same approach, and hopefully we'll save some lives. So a lot of what I'm doing with these webinars and these presentations is to raise awareness. Number one, obviously, to provide you with good information. But number two, to also raise funds so that we can sponsor the research. The research is already underway. And so we're paying for it, obviously, and we're at the same time we're looking to get more help as we go along with it. So we'll show you how to donate, and also we also offer services. So if you do want to consult with myself, there's a small fee, and we're given a discount for it. Any amounts that is paid, it goes directly to the foundation and thus directly for the research. Let's talk. With that said, let's get into the main presentation. So let's talk about the basic principles of brain health and memory. What we know is that memory seems to be probably the most important aspect I have about 7 functions of the brain that I'm going to give to you, but it seems to me that if your memory isn't working like it should. Now, obviously, there's aging memory that declines with age, which is, I don't want to use the word normal, but it is not abnormal. Let's put it that way. And then there's the memory that declines with disease, and we'll talk about that as well. But it seems to me like the memory, you've got to have some degree of a normal memory to be able to think properly, to be able to plan properly, to even be able to move and to do sometimes complex finger motions, leg motions, and so on. Memory seems to be the basic building block for brain function. I'm going to show you a few things as we go along. So let's talk about first principles. I have a picture here. This looks a little bit complicated. This is a picture of the brain. An image of the brain. It shows the largest part. This large part is obviously the part that makes us human. We have the largest, it's called the cerebrum, of the largest cerebrum of any animal or mammal. Down here is the cerebellum. Cerebellum is, we're beginning to understand that cerebellum is not just for balance and control and for motion, it also helps with speech and helps with memory as well. And this is spinal cord. Obviously, your ability to control your blood flow, your temperature, blood pressure, and so on, are all at this level. But let's not look at that whole big thing. The real thing I want to bring to people's attention is this image on the right. It's called a synapse. All right, let me go back to the other picture. So you can see there's a neuron. There are millions and billions of neurons. These are the small nerve cells. What makes brain function work? Doesn't matter whether you're thinking, whether you're trying to move a limb, whether you're having an emotion, is the transmission of nerve impulses, kind of like electrical impulses, from one nerve cell to the other nerve cell. And even though it's an electrical impulse, for this transmission to happen, chemicals have to be released from one nerve cell to the other. So the chemicals are released, and this gap here is called the synapse. Well, this whole thing, this joint where one nerve cell meets with another nerve cell and communicates the signal and impulses, is called a synapse. And there are certain chemicals, and it all depends on which nerve cells are involved and what you're trying to do. So if you're trying to form a memory, there's specific, what are known as chemical neurotransmitters that are involved in that. If you're trying to move a limb, it's a different kind of neurotransmitter. If you have an emotion, it's a different kind of neurotransmitter. You've probably heard about dopamine, and you've heard of serotonin. The serotonin is probably the most common one because it's one of the most popular and the most successful drugs in history to deal with serotonin. Serotonin has been related to depression. Depression is one of the most common disabilities known to man. And so therefore the drugs that have been created to address depression have been drugs that address serotonin levels in the brain. And so again, everything happens at this level. So if you're going to do anything to improve brain function, you've got to look at this particular, and this is another picture. This is where the magic happens. If you can't improve the transmission of nerve impulses from here to here, from one neuron to the other neuron, you are on the decline. And that's what happens as we grow older. This transmission is not as effective as others to a certain level. Now, if it goes beyond that certain level, then it becomes something related to disease, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's talk about the 7 functions of the brain. You probably notice that those of you who have heard me speak, I like to use the number 7 a lot. So it's kind of like a nice little package. It kind of wraps everything up together in a nice little package. So I talk about the laws of life, the laws of health. And again, it's number 7. So here they are. Executive function, where you have planning, restraint, problem solving, and so on and so forth. It's also what helps you control your emotions, control your impulses. That is really one of the most important things that make us human. Of course, I mentioned the basic survival things. The brain controls your blood pressure, the brain controls your temperature regulation, your breathing, and so on and so forth. Movements, some say that the reason why we have such big brains is because of the complex motion that we have to do as human beings, everything from finger motions to moving from one position to the other. Here's a big one. The brain receives sensory inputs from the eyes, from the ear, through the ears, through the nostrils, the taste buds, the feelings, and so on and so forth. Memory, again, this is what we're going to be talking about with regards to keeping your marbles. The brain also has feelings and emotions, but also remember that feelings and emotions are not just limited to the brain. They're also kind of like spread around the body, but a lot of it happens in your guts, and that's probably going to be in other presentations. A lot of emotions are addressed, actually affect the gut and vice versa. I think the thing that makes us most human, and I'm not sure too many people would disagree with that, is the fact that we can speak. But the fact that we can articulate words, we can hear words, and we can understand the words, and we can use speech to communicate with each other and the atmosphere is one, I guess, stands out the most when it comes to what defines humanity. Notice I didn't talk about things. I'm trying to think. See, that's why I probably need this presentation as much as anybody there because I'm forgetting the word now. But things like consciousness, the self, personality, the subconscious mind, these are all other things, but I don't include them in the seven basic functions of the brain, because it's when those seven functions are working, that's what makes us our unique persons, our unique set of emotions, our unique speech patterns, our movements. These all eventually create the self or the consciousness of who this particular unique individual is. So I'm talking about the basic fundamental things here. So having talked about the seven, how the brain works and what the brain needs we'll talk about what the brain needs to function in a little bit. But let's talk about when things begin to grow on. Like I mentioned, as you grow older, things don't work as well. I'm beginning to see it myself. I remember I was going through a lot of stress. In fact, that was related to why I had to go back to Nigeria in the first place after having stayed here for about 10 years. I thought I was going to raise a family here. I thought I was going to create a career. Things were going well, and all of a sudden everything just fell apart, completely fell apart. Had to go back to Nigeria. I was depressed. In fact, to say I was devastated would be an understatement. I was almost suicidal because I know it sounds crazy, but I had given up medicine. I was going to be an oncologist. I had given that up because I was searching for answers. And I was looking and searching, and I came to the US and I thought I would find those answers. And I did find some, and things were beginning to open up. And like I said, the bottom just fell apart from under me. And I had to go back home. And if you know anything about Africans, there's a lot of expectations, especially from a firstborn son. And I felt those expectations. I had not met them, and I could see the disappointment in my family and my parents. And I was crippled mentally. That was really for the first time I started forgetting words. I couldn't, actually, as I had really major migraine headaches, I couldn't sleep well. And as I was speaking, I mean, people could actually feel the stress and sense the stress in my voice. Like I said, I was forgetting words. I was forgetting things. I couldn't think properly. And that's not normal. That's an abnormal kind of stress. But we see that again as you grow older. So three main things I just want to point out as you grow older that's kind of compromise your memory. One of them is what is known as the hippocampus, is this part of the brain that deals with the integration of memory. And that hippocampus begins to shrink and weaken with age. Now, obviously, you can train it, if you deliberately train it and you build it up. And if, of course, you take the right nutrients and the right building blocks, you can keep your hippocampus healthy and strong. But for the most people, that hippocampus shrinks. The other thing is that your hormones, we know that hormones, especially the sex hormones, like estrogen and progesterone and testosterone are super important for memory formation and memory retrieval. These hormones, as you know, begin to diminish with age, more in both men and women, but because estrogen is so important, it seems to diminish, and of course in women with the menopause, it diminishes. Estrogen is super important for memory and for healthy brain cells as well. And then the third thing is that blood flow. As we grow older, blood flow to the brain and to particular parts of the brain, especially the parts that deal with memory, tend to diminish. Why is blood flow important? Well, obvious things. Blood is blood that brings oxygen and removes carbon dioxide. It's blood that takes in the right nutrients. It's blood that brings in the nutrients and the building blocks that help nourish your brain cells, help to make the synapses work, and help so many things happen. So those three things primarily are what happens as you grow older. So memory begins to diminish. However, you're able to retain some very strong memories. Some people are even able to remember what happens when they were 3 years of age. Well, what differentiates normal age memory loss compared to if there's a pathology like Alzheimer's disease, which we're going to talk about later on? It's normal to forget your keys. It's normal to go into a room and to wonder what you were doing in the room. It is not normal to constantly forget to pay your bills. It is not normal to not remember your daughter's or your son's name or your grandchildren's name. It is not normal to not know how to plan. It is not normal if you're forgetting things and then you're confused while forgetting those things. Because with dementia, there's also that emotional component to it that many people complain about. They get confused, they get disoriented, they sometimes wear clothes in a different way, they forget how to button their shirt, or they don't button the way it should be. Those are all beginning signs of something that is abnormal. Okay. Here's another list. And by the way, this video will share the link for this video with you. So if you registered for it, we can send you the link for this. Here are some other things with regards to memory loss. So chronic stress, I mentioned stress with regards to me. Chronic disease like diabetes, hypertension, anything that affects the blood is going to affect the brain. So that can be a problem. Obviously, if you're on drugs for a long time, if you're being treated for cancer, if you have had numerous surgeries and you've been kept under anesthesia. Anesthesia is a chemical that can affect and compromise brain function. If you're deficient in nutrients, that's another problem. And we'll talk about some key nutrients that your brain needs on a regular basis. You don't need to take all the nutrients that are available, but there are some specific nutrients that unfortunately we are not being told by the medical professionals, of which I am one, that these nutrients are important. So it will be good for you. And some of them are super cheap. What I found out is that it is really, really easy and cheap to at least maintain a basic minimum of brain health. There's some basic things like vitamin D. I'm going to talk about vitamin C, zinc. There's some specific B vitamins, which are not that expensive, that would be very helpful. We know toxins can play a huge role. In fact, many of my kids, the kids that we treat at the foundation with brain disorders, many of them are affected by toxins, maybe toxins that affected their mother when they were in the womb. There could be toxins or a lot overdose of antibiotics when they were younger, maybe treatment for an ear infection, something that was harmless that eventually caused brain problems. Trauma, repeated concussions. You probably heard about football players. Many times they have repeated blows to the head. Remember Muhammad Ali, over time, that can result in some degree of brain damage and compromised brain function. I mentioned blood flow a lot at all. Okay, so those are all things that you probably, some of you may already can relate to some of these things. So once you know what the dangers are, really, quite frankly, folks, just living in this environment, whether it's in the US or Canada, Nigeria, wherever it is, you're exposed to this environment. You have, as a rule, you're exposed to toxins, unless you're living in some, pristine island somewhere with lots of sun, no bugs or things that can affect you. Most people, as long as you're out in this environment, your brain is going to be assailed, it's going to be bombarded, it's going to be pummeled. And don't forget, stress also involves relationship stress, problems, dissatisfaction, maybe with your life or with your work or with family, friction between spouses. I mean, the list goes on and on. So it's very important that you assume that your brain is already under attack. You are already under siege. So don't wait to do a test. You don't need to do a test. All you need to do is begin to take the right nutrients and the right supplements. I mentioned the laws of life earlier because this is kind of like this. It helps me think too. It's like a checklist of all the different things that are affecting our lives, and also it's a checklist to say what can you do. And most of these things you already know of. I mean, by the time you get to be in your 50s or 60s, by experience, you've learned these are the things that you need to do for yourself. So I put at the very top, the words you speak are so important. The words you hear, the words you read. Think about this. There are things that if you hear consistently that when you turn 50 and 60, your memory is going to fail, you're probably going to have cancer, and you start saying these things, guess what? It's going to affect you. You know this already. I'm not going to spend much time here because most of what we're going to be talking about is number 4 here. The quality of what you put in your body, because in my experience, the easiest thing you can do is address what you put in your body. That's really the easiest thing you can do. Number 5 here, I know that it's not numbered, but the quality of care you give your body, obviously for brain health, sleep is important. Quality sleep, 6-7 hours a day. They say 7-8 hours a day. But the important thing is that you've got to have it in a dark room. If you need to get those things, they give you on the airplanes, there's masks to cover your eyes. Make sure there's no light coming in. Turn the lights off. Make sure the TV is off. You don't want flickering lights. Your computer and your phone should not be near you. You should keep all that away from you. If you don't, it's going to affect the quality of your sleep. Of course, you do need to move. When I was in Yuma, I was just so impressed with how many people were out in the sun walking around. One of the best things you can do for yourself. All right, let's talk about the nutrients. Remember, I talked about nutrients being so important, and for the rest of the talk, we'll be talking a lot about nutrients. Oh yeah, I forgot this. Maintain the right blood levels. If your blood sugars are high, you want to make sure that you check to make sure that they're within normal range. Same thing with your triglycerides, your blood pressure too. If your blood pressure is consistently high or is unstable, it's going to affect your brain health. All right, enough about that. Omega-3 fatty acids. That's probably going to be the most important nutrient you can put in your brain. And I say that because your brain, 60% of your brain, the dry weight of your brain is made up of omega-3 fatty acids. So that would be a really good start. And we discovered it almost by mistake too. We found out that key thing that helped in kids recovering from brain damage, especially those with cerebral palsy, was a very high quality cerebral omega-3 fatty acid. Why? Again, omega-3s are what make for the structure of the brain cells, the neurons. The omega-3s are the structure of the brain cells, a large percentage of it. So if there's anything going on with your brain cells, first thing if there's loss, especially things like Alzheimer's disease, if there's loss of the structure of the brain cells, if it's shrinking, if you're losing nerve cells, one of the things you want to do is you want to use omega-3 fatty acids. I have over here CDZ plus B. C stands for vitamin C, D stands for vitamin D, Z stands for zinc, which is the most important mineral for the brain. It's also the most important mineral for the immune system. the brain and the immune system are very, very similar. They have a lot in common. Vitamin C is like the Swiss Army knife, in my opinion. Whatever it is, you need vitamin C or whatever you're going to be doing. B, some have said that the B vitamins should be called the brain vitamins because they are so important for the formation and the protection of nerve cells. The most important of the B complex vitamins are B1, I think that's thiamine, B6, and B12. There are specific kinds of those B vitamins that are not as commonly found in the stores. For instance, this, and we'll probably talk about that later, but most B vitamins that have vitamin B12 is known as cyanocobalamin. Don't need to remember that, but methylcobalamin is the most important kind of B12. It's not commonly found in the stores, unfortunately. So you have to ask for that. Same thing with vitamin D. Doctors typically prescribe vitamin D2. That's not the best kind of vitamin D. You need the vitamin D3, and doctors don't prescribe D3. So you think that because a doctor is prescribing vitamin D2, that's the best kind. It isn't. It's nowhere near as effective as the vitamin D3. So you want to specifically ask for vitamin D3. Fiber, there's a lot to say about that, but fiber is so important. Basically, in a nutshell, fiber feeds the good bacteria in your guts. It doesn't feed you, it feeds the good bacteria in your gut. In turn, the good bacteria digest it and they produce certain chemicals that are super important for the brain. Butyrate is one of those chemicals. All right, so I mentioned, again, I just want to reemphasize, it's important that you maintain healthy blood levels of your blood sugar, your glucose, your triglycerides, but you also want to maintain healthy blood levels of things like vitamin D. This is going to be an entirely different talk. There's so much to be said about vitamin D. Can't really talk too much about it, but I do want to show you this picture. Vitamin D3 has been, people now, probably because of COVID-19, has become a lot more common. But if there's anything you want to take from here, you've got to take this away from it. You need to have vitamin D3 on a daily basis for everything, for your brain, for your immune system, for your cardiovascular system, and so on and so forth. Here's a picture. So these are two mice from the same litter. They're pups, I guess they're called pups. Exactly the same age, same litter, like I said. One of them had the ability to make vitamin D knocked out of them. So it's a genetically modified. The other one could make vitamin D. So after about 8 months, about 3 months or so, 4 months, you can see the one on the left, exactly the same age. This one could not make vitamin D, the other one could. And you can see the difference in the size and the health of these pups, simply because one could make vitamin D and the other one could not. You absolutely should be taking vitamin D. All right, so I kind of like divided this thing into structure, function, and toxins, how to prevent toxins. I've mentioned omega-3s. There are some specific kinds of sugars that are very important for the buildup of the brain. Vitamin D3, you probably need vitamin D, the B vitamins as well. And then function. If your brain cells, if you're not losing brain cells, and we all are losing brain cells, but if it's not as big a problem, probably the most important thing is, like I said initially, is for there to be good communication between one brain cell and the other. So you need healthy amounts of the neurotransmitters, which are the chemicals that are produced from one brain cell to the next brain cell. We'll get into that in a little bit more. But because the brain is so sensitive, anything like inflammation, and the brain is super sensitive to toxins, anything like inflammation will affect the brain keep it from working well. And things like oxidants, free radicals, again, toxins in the air, pollutants, smoke, inhaled dust, particles, all these things can affect the brain. So you really need an antioxidant. I recommend everybody should have an antioxidant and an anti-inflammatory. These are things that help to protect the brain. So I guess from this can easily extrapolate what's going on. I mean, if you're not doing all the things I've got kind of like described, it's easy to see how it's possible to begin to lose your marbles or to have your brain function be diminished. But there are some things that are more like events like a stroke, Alzheimer's disease, or you have an injury from concussion, you get knocked. I've been knocked out before. I've been in the military. I was raised in the military, actually. So I've had a concussion or two before. So those are all smart. I mean, I obviously recovered from it, I think. But there are things that happen to us as younger people that they're beginning to find out that if you didn't heal completely from it, it could come back and bite you and then you know what later in life. So again, the key is not to say, well, I'm not sure if I had this concussion or whether it's going to affect me later in life. The key takeaway is that you've got to be taking something for your brain. Doesn't matter what else you're doing. You've got to be giving your body to be taking nutrients that will help to build and strengthen your brain. Don't wait until you have an issue. It's your responsibility to yourself, to your spouse, to your family members to strengthen your brain. You don't want to be a liability, and nobody wants to be dependent on somebody else. So you want to do whatever you can to make sure you're not a liability. So what do we do if, for instance, you feel your memory is losing, or you're losing your memory, or you have a loved one who has probably begun that downwards spiral, shall we call it that way? What do you begin to do? Well, I'm going to discuss what is normally done briefly by medical practitioners, especially neurologists. In my opinion, is nowhere near what they need to do. Then we'll kind of talk about what we do in our foundation. What we found out was that initially all our focus was with children with brain disorders. Then we started having people visit us with, or they would call us and they would say, well, my mother has this issue, what can you do for them? And even without seeing these patients, we would already begin to address these things because the principles are the same. For children, obviously, you got to be more careful because they're more sensitive. But the good thing is that because we started with children, it was a lot easier to just basically extrapolate and apply the same principles to adults. In fact, a lot easier. Now it takes a lot more. It's easier to treat children because you can basically force kids to eat certain things. Adults, sometimes in some cases, the people who had issues didn't believe they had any issues. So it was tough to convince them to take supplements or to take the medications. But because we started with kids, we knew what was safe in a general sense. And so we could just say, hey, try this, try that, or we'll ship those things over to them. And if they were in another city, many of my patients, I haven't even seen them before. I just basically work on what the daughter or the son or the spouse tells us, and then we'll just work with what they tell us, and then we'll send them stuff, and they would call us back and say, "Wow, we got significant results. She's not wandering out at night again. She's not mixing her clothes up. Some wear different color socks. I'm just outrageous things." They were not doing those things again. So I kind of like built it up for us over a period of time. We got pretty good at it. And that's even before we really knew what to do. Now that I've come to the States and kind of like worked with other healthcare professionals and people who are doing innovative things in the field of brain health, we've learned so much more, and now we have even much better tools to address these things, and hopefully we can serve you in a little bit. Basics. So obviously, if you're want to regain your marbles, you want to start with the basics. Make sure that you have the C, the Z, the D, and the zinc, and the B vitamins. That's the baseline, right? But it's not going to be enough. You're going to have to build upon that. So RWM is regaining your marbles, light. And then RWM, I'm kind of like playing with words here, premium, that's really when you have to go all out. If it's a major problem like severe, moderate to severe Alzheimer's disease, you got to go all out. It's not got to go down with just one supplement or nutritional complex. You've got to do a good workup and really, really spend money too, but you really have to get the big guns. And another thing I just want to mention is, I mentioned this when we're in humor, white on rice mentality, the white on rice, and basically that's just a cute way of saying you've got to attack things. Don't wait until they happen to you. If you've had a stroke, or let's say, God forbid, let's say you've had a concussion, maybe you've had a transient, a tiny stroke, a mini stroke, you want to hit it hard. You got to pump lots of vitamin C, lots of vitamin D, and then you get the big guns, the really, really, really big guns. I'll talk about some of them in a little bit. I'm not going to mention any specific supplements because any specific brands. Whoever invited you to the show, to this, you can go back and you can ask them about it, because we have other people too from other companies and other, or representing other supplements. Well, we wouldn't be on this show as well, so we want to kind of like make it as generic as possible, but know for sure that there are specific supplements that can really help. I want to talk about this really quickly. The body can be healed through the mind or brain. The brain, we all know that the body can be healed through the mind or the brain. The brain must be healed through the body. And I think this is where I think our medical, with all due respect, our medical professionals have failed, because consistently, we're just like the neurologist now, all he thinks about is the brain. So he addresses the brain, so, prescribes medications and things that specifically target the brain. From our experience, that is not enough. There are about 5 different systems, and I'm going to show you them in a minute. But just to underscore the importance of firepower, you need firepower. I have this picture in front of you. You probably heard about the Incredible Hulk. Once those eyes turn green, I think that's the downward spiral has begun, and you better turn things around. You're in trouble. So you need the big guns, because once his eyes turn green, it's going to be Incredible Hulk, and you go bring in the army to deal with this guy, and probably that's not going to be enough. So I say that because, again, C, D, Z, and the B vitamins, not going to be enough. Not going to be enough. They're good as a basics for starters, not going to be enough. You're going to have to bring in the big guns. So you need what we found out are potent nutraceuticals and nutrient complexes that address specific systems. And this in front of you here is the three systems that are probably more important than any other system in the body. The brain, obviously, that's where the problem is. The endocrine system, I mentioned the hormones are very, very important, especially estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, the sex hormones, so to speak. Thyroid hormones are very important as well, and of course, insulin. But the sex hormones are super important for your brain cells. The immune system, very, very important, because inflammation is mediated by the immune system. These 3 systems, I call them the central governing system, and they are what regulates and affect each other, and they affect the brain and the 9 or 10 other systems in the body. So just quickly run through these. Again, this is not enough time. I'm just giving you an overview that if you have a brain challenge or you're concerned about someone who has a brain challenge, you do have to address the brain, but you also have to address the endocrine system, the immune system, and yes, the cardiovascular system. Because without good blood flow to the brain, you are not going to get good results. So you, in addition to brain supplements and immune supplements and endocrine system supplements, you've got to take something that improves blood flow to the brain. This is one of my best quotes. The human body heals itself and proper nutrition provides it with the resources it requires to accomplish that task. But you can't get nutrition into the body unless, except if you're in the hospital and they're giving you through a feeding tube, or they're giving it to you directly into your veins. But there's no way you're going to get the nutrition to your brain if you don't take it in through your digestive system. So you have to have a healthy digestive system. So that's another talk, completely a different talk again. But I think this is where, again, this is a huge gap when it comes to the treatment of brain disorders. The gut has to be taken into account when you're dealing with brain disorders, especially long-standing brain disorders. And that, again, is, in my opinion, an unfortunate failure when it comes to dealing with brain challenges. So these are the big five: the nervous system, which of course the brain is a part of, the hormones, the immune system, blood flow, cardiovascular system, and the digestive system. It's like, what I found out is that I had to take everything I knew about treating different diseases, everything I knew about diabetes, about hypertension, about joint problems, the immune system, about cancer, and then bring it all to address the brain, because all those things affect the brain function. So I'm going to end by just bringing up some thoughts about Alzheimer's disease. It's, in the grand scheme of things, it's apparently is number 4 in top causes of death after heart, cardiovascular disease, cancers, and respiratory disease disorders. It's becoming, from what I understand, it costs more than all the other 3 combined. Treating Alzheimer's disease is a big problem. Okay, so that's kind of like a picture. This is what a normal brain should look like. You can see there's a lot of atrophy, shriveling of the brain. It affects the whole brain, but especially the parts that have to do with memory. So we used to think about cancer as that big bad wolf that could not be tamed. Now it seems like, because I guess everybody knows a cancer survivor. I'm not sure too many people know an Alzheimer's disease survivor. It's almost impossible if you're going by standard treatment. The one disease condition that cannot be delayed, postponed, or cured, or is it? Well, if you're going by standard treatment, it isn't. That's the dogma. You cannot treat Alzheimer's disease. But again, as I mentioned earlier, you're addressing it from a one-dimensional perspective. If you look at it in a 3-dimensional perspective, like I've been trying to point across, you will see that that may not entirely be true. So the standard approaches, Aricept is probably a very popular drug for Alzheimer's disease. You do the different testing, obviously expensive imaging. You do stick a pin in stick a needle in the spine, take out fluid, you examine the fluids, and that tells you whether or not the person has Alzheimer's disease. It's very expensive, very uncomfortable. Many times people don't want to go through that, so they just live in denial and then wait for that thing to get worse and worse and worse. And because we've all been told that there's nothing you can do about Alzheimer's disease, they don't do anything about it. So most times people are hesitant to even go to the doctor when they begin to see these things begin to happen. And I'm here to say that there's a lot you can do. There's a lot you can do. This is another slide just basically saying what is required for them to make a diagnosis. And again, a lot of expense. This is an example from an actual example from a neurologist. When we are trying to diagnose Alzheimer's disease, you got to do an MRI of the brain. You got to take the bloods, examine the blood, do the metabolic panel. I mentioned thyroid hormones, B12. Yeah, the doctor told the wife to watch her husband spending medications and transportation closely. Sometimes we know that one of the first signs of Alzheimer's disease is you can't find your way back home. You're driving, probably driven home hundreds and thousands of times, and all of a sudden you get lost because you can't find your way home, and that repeats itself. And of course, with all that workup, with all the tests and all that, the one drug they could give them was, you guessed it, Aricept, which is, there's a new drug that's out there, it's out now, but it's not showing all that much promise. And that's this drug. It's called aducanumab. Did I get that right? Let me see. Can't really see it now. Aducanumab is hard to pronounce. But let's see, for those of you who, yeah, aducanumab. Aducanumab. I mean, it's super expensive, $56,000 a year. And that's not going to be available for anybody in Nigeria. And I always think in terms of people because I come from Nigeria, I think in terms of what can we do for people in remote areas, because that's the lowest common denominator, the lowest, if it's something that I cannot apply in remote areas, I'm usually not interested in it, because I need to know what can we take back home to those who are penniless, who live in remote areas, and how can we use what we know about in the developed worlds, like the US, how can we break it down and make it applicable to somebody in remote areas? That's how I always think. So as soon as I see all this, I'm like, yeah, not interested. And quite frankly, there's a good reason to be in this. It's not only very expensive, it hasn't really given much promise, and it has some major side effects. Said more than 10% had tiny brain bleeds, had a reversible or something. I don't remember what this is now. Trying to look at this. Hang on, maybe that's, yeah, swelling of the brain. That's another problem. You got to have expert attention. You got to have an expert look, take a really good look at it. Make sure they monitor these patients very, very closely. Well, we don't have that kind of experts over there. So again, not interested. Besides that, I understand there was a lot of controversy involved at the FDA before they approved this drug. As a matter of fact, some people actually resigned from the FDA because they were so upset that the due diligence was not done to it before this drug was approved. So probably there was some hanky-panky going on behind the scenes. So we've got to look at nutrition. I know doctors will look at you and they say, like, what does nutrition have to do with it? I got to tell you, a lot. But it's only when you take a dispassionate, stone cold look at the facts that you'll be able to see the results. And I find out that many times people don't look at them until maybe it affects a spouse or someone close to them. That's when they finally decide to look at nutrition. But I'm saying you got to start looking at it right now before it gets to that stage. So we need supplements. And thankfully there are nutrients and supplements that are now available. Jan Cass, who's on the call, there's a really fantastic brain supplements that combines all the B vitamins, the D vitamins, brings it all together. I've used it on different people, and some of you probably have. Jan Johnson has used it. She's talked about some really, really good results. So I would really, really recommend that for starters. Alzheimer's disease, you're probably going to need Alzheimer's disease. Yeah, probably. I would say it's probably a good idea to talk to me so we can really take you through, because you sometimes need somebody to take you by the hand and show you how the doses to use and how to adapt with each passing month. So usually I charge a fee of about $250 for a consultation. And for those, we kind of like do an offer for those who are on the call. We will give it half off, so $125. The money doesn't come to my pocket. It goes to our foundation for the research that we're doing. And if you would like to donate to the research, we have, I believe, there's a way to donate online. Type in the number 44321. You text, it's like a text into this address, text in SCD, sickle cell disease, to 44321. And if you would like to make out a check to the foundation to help us with the work that we're doing, we are saving lives. Your money will be put to good use. We got a check to Brain and Body Foundation. So with that, I want to take a pause here. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this. I hope it's been helpful. And let's see, you can go ahead and ask questions if you need to. Are you recording this so my parents can review. Yeah. Yes. I know this is not Jan Johnson asking me this question, but somebody, I think Jan's parents, Jan's kids, I don't know. Anyway, we have gotten to the end. Any questions, any comments, any, let's see now. Take this back off so you guys can see me. Okay, yeah, the stage. All right. So, any questions? I see everybody stayed on, so that's a good sign. You weren't completely bored.
Excellent. Excellent,
right.
David. Really appreciate your time. Every time I listen to you, I learn something new.
Yeah.
And so.
Thank you, Jan.
You're going to be on next Wednesday night at 7 with a new topic?
I will be here next Wednesday night at 7 with a new topic, yes.
Okay,
Well,
and is there a way to get a hold of you?
Yes, okay, so might as well just type in my email address here and then my phone number. Yeah, my email address for those of you listening on the phone is david.wordquest@gmail.com. And my phone number is 713-859-4333. 713-859-4333.
Okay, slow down. Some of us haven't taken supplements long enough.
713-859-4333. How's that?
That's better.
Okay, so I'm gonna just send it everybody that. So yeah, put in my email address there, and then my phone number is there as well. So any questions? Do you see any, Jan?
No, I don't see any questions. I'm looking, but.
Okay, I see Eric. Eric is raising his hand. Eric, you can unmute yourself and then.
Yeah, what would you, I've been doing, I got lung cancer and I've been doing 10,000 D3 for quite a long time and fenbendazole. I'm a disabled vet and I'm a chiropractor and interested in alternative stuff. I've come from my dad, granddad, and great granddad were medical doctors, but and I'm in recovery, and this is just a really interesting stuff you've been going over. I'm very strong in nutrition, of course, is the way to go. And I just I remember hearing a doctor. He's not a doctor, but G. Edward Griffin about the B17 laetrile thing. He had dinner with my dad 20 years ago before Dad passed, and just with the just all the different, even Asian Ayurvedic systems for cancer. I've been avoiding sugar and lost 20 pounds with that, but it's metastasized to the liver. I found out from the VA a few days ago, but so I'll probably be calling you and chatting more about stuff nutritionally, and I'm doing testosterone, half cc every couple of weeks, and it's just been really helping my clarity and like you said, brain function. And Carrie Butter to put the fat for myelin sheath for help faster. I know a lot of college kids put butter in their coffee before they study. Have you ever heard of that one? Anyway, I'll shut up now. Enjoyed it. I'll speak.
Thank you.
David knows what Carrie butter is. He bought some and he said, boy, the butter's expensive out here. He didn't realize that it wasn't just plain butter.
Yeah, Jan asked me to get butter and I was like, yeah, butter. I was like, wait a minute, this is Sam's Club? How come this is so expensive? Yeah, so I guess it's and now we know we use the students. I never knew students use that for Yeah, so butter is really, really good, especially if it's the right kind of butter. Margarine, a big no. Yeah, you're putting toxins in your body. You take margarine. Yeah, MCT oils, coconut oils, very, very good for the brain as well. Very, very good. It has helped with Alzheimer's disease. If you've been treated for cancer, if you have been on chemotherapy, that chemotherapy is gonna compromise your brain too. So you definitely need to get in the big guns to address your brain health. And of course, you need the right immune support for your cancer as well, so you can fully recover from cancer. Congratulations on beating cancer, right, Eric? Big congratulations.
Working at Eric, Lucia can recommend a lot of the supplements that David was talking about, but when you talk to David, he can refer you back to Lucia on the things that she has, and David can get a hold of some other through other doctors and stuff. So
Right. There's always an answer. There's some fantastic tools out there. You just need to be able to use them consistently.
and thanks for joining. Okay. Well, we'll see you all and invite friends and relatives and people that need this. Thank you, Lucia, for doing that with Eric.
Yeah.
So just, yeah, definitely reach out to other people. David's, I'm sure, got a lot of room on this Zoom call, and it eventually might change to a different number. But David, do we register every week or?
Yeah, you need to register every week because when you register, we can now send you the link for the preview. So it depends on which one you register for. If you don't register for it, we're not going to send you a link for preview unless you specifically ask for it. Okay. Not preview. Watch.
Okay, and they just go in and register the same way, or when they send the link out, will there be new information on where to register for next week?
That's a good question, Jan.
We'll work on it.
Yeah, let's work on that. Yeah. Well, we can help as we go along, right?
Okay, thank you, and thank you so much for taking your time. I know you're a busy person. And you've got I know that personally, that you've got a lot of clients all over the world, and you're on Zoom calls and you're on your TV show, and I saw it firsthand.
Hey, by the way, that video we did with Nancy and at the card room, they showed it recently.
Okay.
Let's put it this way: you are a natural. You're a national celebrity in Nigeria now. Let's put it that way.
Okay. It's amazing because we were playing games and he took a picture and asked each person what they attribute. Most of them were over 80. So what they attribute their health to, and their longevity and their sharpness. And so he learned a lot from us old folks out here.
That's right. Thanks, Jan.
I'm the young 75-year-old, so I can't consider myself old, but all right. God bless you, David, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Jan. I thank you, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.